This is Pro Football Perspective. I am Nathaniel Bradley. Whether you're at home, work, the gym, in your car, or wherever you are, thanks for taking time out of your day to spend here. Pro Football Perspective is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube. And of course, be sure to follow on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. What's happening? I am back and ready to dive into a great episode. We're going to be looking at the longevity and durability of the GOAT Group quarterbacks. I'm excited for it. There's a lot of cool insights to get into here. But before doing so, want to address the elephant in the room. The team success metric, not just the final episode of that metric, but I guess that entire 2 or 3 episodes there, probably generated a lot of head scratching out there. And I think that's because I was measuring success per season. That's probably, the confusing aspect of it. You'll notice that I also included strength of schedule in a lot of those metrics there. And again, probably a little head scratching. Not so much at the top. I think most people, if they've been paying attention to this podcast and listening in and following on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective, most people probably would have expected Otto Graham or Bart Starr near the top or at the top of team success metric, and Tom Brady right there as well, either at the top or near the top. And all three of those were. All 3 quarterbacks were top 3 or 4, regardless of how it was measured. The head-scratching moments, I think, came when we saw Joe Montana ranked below, like John Elway and Drew Brees. That's a head-scratcher. Head-scratcher because Joe Montana won 4 Super Bowls, and Drew Brees won 1, and John Elway won 2, although he did appear in 5. So that's a head scratcher. Like, how does that happen? Well, that was in the selection of statistics that included a strength of schedule factor. Okay, so that's why I kind of went into the depths of looking at it in 3 different ways. Okay, looking at it with strength of schedule, looking at team success without strength of schedule, and then I did the third look at it, team success only postseason. Now the postseason measurement is probably what most people have in their heads. Okay. Now, most people, I say most people as in like a casual fan, they don't know who Bart Starr is and they don't know who Otto Graham is. So Tom Brady is the first name that you would recognize on postseason team success. That's followed immediately by Roger Staubach. Most people don't think of Roger Staubach in that light because he only won 2 Super Bowls. And again, most people are going to grade this out based on Super Bowls. So then you've got Terry Bradshaw with 4 and Joe Montana with 4. So that's what fits, I think, a casual fan's perspective of postseason success. Again, I was measuring per season, not in totality. So, hey, I addressed it, in the episode where I kind of walked through, hey, who has the most total wins, most postseason wins, most championships? That's all Tom Brady. And so, yes, we can look at it that way, and there's nothing wrong with looking at it that way. I think the important caveat to keep in mind is that I was addressing postseason success or team success with strength of schedule or team success without strength of schedule. I was addressing each of those on a per season basis. So someone like Tom Brady, it's somewhat unfair. Like I'll own that. It's somewhat unfair because he's played for 20 seasons where he's playing and 22 seasons in the NFL. So yeah, hey, each season he plays, he kind of loses out on that per season average unless he's going 17-0 and winning the Super Bowl. So he's a victim of his own success in a lot of ways for that type of metric when it's a per season basis. Those of you that are Tom Brady fans, can grit and groan about that, don't worry, I have something for you. I'm working on something here, because it's not fair. It's not fair to measure that in just a little snapshot of a per season basis, because he should get some credit for totality there. So I'll address that. Don't worry, that's coming. Some of the other head scratchers in there were simply like, how is Kurt Warner number 7 on postseason success? He only won 1 Super Bowl. Well, it's because anytime he made the postseason, he typically won multiple games. I think he only had the one season, one and done. Second season with St. Louis there. Other things that jumped out were, Peyton Manning's at number 5 in the initial metric, and then he immediately drops like a rock to number 10 when you factor in not having a strength of schedule factor there. So, Manning faced a stronger schedule than some of his contemporaries, but realistically here, he had a below average postseason when compared to the other members of the GOAT group. And so he drops down when you don't give him the benefit of the doubt of having that strength of schedule factor in there. A quarterback like Bart Starr was great regardless in terms of postseason success, team success with strength of schedule, team success without strength of schedule. So that's why he ranked so high. But Manning definitely needed that metric of regular season strength of schedule in order to kind of climb the rankings there. Other things, I mean, hey, again, this is comparing these 16 quarterbacks to one another. If you compare them to the average quarterback, they're all they're all amazing, fantastic icons, legends, you name it. But when we're splitting hairs, we're going to compare them to each other. And that brings me to today's episode. We are going to be looking at longevity and durability. There's a common saying, you'll hear it a lot, typically from ex-players when they're giving analysis and their hot takes about injured players, okay? Or players that are maybe holding out or choosing to sit out, something like that. But they have this phrase where they say, the best ability is availability. And they tend to bring that up. This is one of the cliches that when you're as good as these 16 quarterbacks are, 100% true. Any team would be happy to have one of these 16 quarterbacks more often and for longer. So we are going to measure that. How we're going to measure that, it's really kind of cool because it weighs in on some of the counting stats. It weighs in on some of the more advanced metrics and some totally unique things that I hadn't thought about before I started looking at this, but interesting stuff nonetheless. And I plan on really kind of addressing a lot of different aspects here. Some of it might be a little boring to the ear, but it's going to wind up being beneficial, I think, to kind of hear out how these 16 quarterbacks compare to each other. Okay, again, we're not going to compare them to the average quarterback or the average NFL player. Okay, I said when I started this podcast, what is it, the 3-year or 3.5-year average lifespan of an NFL player in the league? All of these guys are way beyond that. Okay, so again, we're going to be splitting hairs. Okay, we're comparing them to one another. Okay, now how are we going to be measuring longevity and durability into one metric? I'm going to be looking at 6 categories here. Okay, the first category is very straightforward, very simple. Total seasons. That's it. Total number of seasons a player was listed as active to start the season. So you got a guy like Brady. We're not looking at qualifying seasons. I've mentioned qualifying seasons on past metrics where a quarterback starts 7 or more games. No. I'm not using that metric here. Okay, it's not qualifying seasons. It's total seasons. So currently, as we speak right now, Tom Brady has 20 seasons where he's started 7 or more games, but he has 22 seasons to his name. Okay, his rookie season he didn't really play, and then the 2008 season when he got his knee blown up in the first game of the season. Okay, but both of those years he was active and available. He was healthy to start the season. Okay, so Brady in this metric is going to be looking at 22 for his total seasons. All right, the start percentage is the next category that I'm going to be looking at. And quick reminder here, these are kind of drawn out and identified and explained on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. There's a graphic there I've put up that will explain each category that I'm working with here with the definition there. So as I said, start percentage is the second category that I'm looking at. And for that, I'm looking at the number of starts a player has in their career divided by the total number of regular season games from the time the player enters the league until the time the player retires. So for Brady, we are looking at 22 seasons, 16 games per season, with the exception of last season being 17. And his start percentage is 89.5%. It's extremely impressive. Obviously, he missed almost an entire season. He missed 15 games in 2008 and his rookie year. Outside of that, model of durability and consistency, that start percentage of 89.5% for Brady. Okay. The next category that we're looking at is a little bit different here. This is something that I came up with because you want to see how a player takes care of themselves, how they remain dedicated to the game, whether by choice or whether their physical gifts just seem to be sapped from them by Father Time. And so what I looked at was their start percentage after the age of 35. Okay, and to determine that, I'm looking at the number of starts a player has in their career after age 35 divided by the total number of regular season games during their career, period. Okay, so you're working with the same number of total games, and then you're just taking, well, how many did they start after their age 35 season? Okay, and I did not go into, well, when is their birthday? Was it in week 2, or was it in the off season, or was it in week 15? Like, no. I just age 35 season. Okay, if they were 35 during the season, that's their age 35 season. Whether they turned 35 in December or in June during the off season, that doesn't matter to me. Okay, so that's a figure where, again, incredible here for Tom Brady. We've got 44.5% of his total games he's been available for, or healthy for, I should say. He started 44.5% after the age of 35. Okay, incredible. Okay, next category that I looked at was percentage of wins after age 35. So if you're looking at, okay, now does a quarterback either maybe they sit for a while at the beginning of their career, a la Aaron Rodgers, maybe they get better with age, okay, which I guess you could say for Tom Brady, or maybe they start to dip towards the second half of their career. They're just not the same guy anymore. Maybe they don't have the same supporting cast, the same coach. They face stiffer competition, whatever it may be. But percentage of wins after age 35, if they're the same guy from the time they enter the league to the time they retire, and that's a long time after age 35, these percentage points should be very similar to their start percentage after age 35. For Brady, okay, his percentage of the wins that he's had after 35, 49%. Now, part of that is because he missed 2 full seasons basically before he was 35. Okay, so he's going to stack up more wins as he plays longer. That number's going to grow. Okay. Next category that I'm looking at here are start percentage after age 40. So this is the same kind of mechanism as start percentage after age 35. We're going to take the number of starts a player has in their career after age 40 and divide that by the total number of regular season games from the time they entered the league to the time they retired. Okay, so there are some players, or I should say most of the players in this GOAT group, that are going to have a big fat 0 here, okay, because they flat out didn't play after 40, okay? So they have 0 starts after the age 40. For a guy like Brady, 22.9% he started game. That's the number of starts he's had versus the total number of games in his career. Pretty impressive. That's just asinine and astronomically high. I think it's important to measure this because, yes, there are players and sometimes quarterbacks that are in the league after age 40. I measured start percentage because I don't want to know about the guy that fades into backup role and mentor, after age 40. I want to know about the guy that is still at it, still playing, still starting. The organization, head coach, combination thereof feel like this guy gives us the best chance to win, even after age 40. And so that's why I'm measuring start percentage, not just were they still in the league after age 40, okay? The last category that I'm looking at here is a percentage of wins after age 40. And again, that's the same kind of mechanism and process to measure as percentage of wins after age 35. We're looking at the number of wins a player has after age 40 divided by the total number of wins in their career. Okay, so I might have misstated that a moment ago now that I think of it. Percentage of wins after age 35, you're looking at number of wins a player has after age 35 divided by the total number of wins in their career. Okay, so you just take their wins, total number of wins. You're going to take their wins after age 40 or after age 35, depending on which metric or statistic you're looking at, and you just divide that figure. So for a guy like Tom Brady, again, nearly a quarter of his total wins have come after age 40. Okay, so again, this is another measurement where if somebody is fading in their career, their percentage of wins will be lower than their start percentage after a certain age. For Brady, he is accelerating somehow. Okay, his start percentage after age 40, 22.9%. The percentage of wins in his career that he's achieved after age 40, 24.7%. Okay, so he's like defying natural law. So something about this guy. Okay, I don't know if it's avocado ice cream or if he's been working with Darth Plagueis or Sidious or Anakin himself. I don't know. But he is finding a way, the fountain of youth, to get better with age somehow. So what we're looking at here with these 6 categories, we've got total number of seasons, we've got total start percentage, we've got start percentage after age 35, percentage of wins after age 35, start percentage after age 40, and then percentage of wins after age 40. Those 6 categories are what determine who has the best combination of longevity and durability. Okay, now I'm going to measure that by simply taking the average of the 16 and seeing how far above or below average each individual quarterback is per category here. Okay, so their delta from the GOAT Group average for total seasons, their delta from the GOAT Group average for start percentage, their delta from the GOAT Group average for start percentage after age 35, their delta from the GOAT Group for start percentage after age 40, their delta from the GOAT Group average of percentage of wins after age 40, and percentage of wins after age 35. Those are all going to be calculated and added up, and that's what gives you the total score, the total longevity and durability score. I've used Brady as an example to kind of spell out what these mean and what percentages to expect and things like that. Partially because he has figures in all 6 categories, whereas some of these quarterbacks don't. And partially because this particular metric, spoiler alert here, I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to come right out with it. This is going to be anticlimactic to a degree. Okay. Tom Brady blew away everybody with almost every single category. Okay. The real drama in calculating these figures was by how much. Okay, who was going to come out second, and by how much were they a distant second from Tom Brady? Okay, I don't think that's really going to surprise a whole lot of people out there. But yeah, Tom Brady is number 1 in longevity and durability. There's just a canyon divide between him and everybody else. So I come right out with it. We're still going to go over all 16 so you can see where they stack up against one another and how they compare to one another. Because I do think that's important to kind of keep in mind. You've got guys in here that are going to, again, you might have a head scratcher or two. When you get near the top, it's all going to make sense, though. It's all going to make sense because it's going to end with Brady at the top. Okay, so we're going to get into that. Again, these kind of calculations, formulas, explanations, these are spelled out in detail and much easier to follow along on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. You can take a look there. I've got the explanation for each category: total season, start percentage after age 35, percentage of wins after age 35, start percentage after age 40, percentage of wins after age 40. I've got those explanations there. I've got the formula for how I kind of calculate all this. And then I'm going to have a graphic for each individual player that kind of shows where they rank within the GOAT group along with their actual figure or statistic for each category. So feel free to follow along there on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. Throw a like, throw a comment, throw a, I disagree, you're an idiot, you're stupid. You'd be wrong, but feel free to do it. And hang on to your butts, as they say. We're going to dive right into it here and now, so get ready. Here we go. Coming in at number 16 in longevity and durability is Otto Graham. We have seen Otto Graham up and down all over the map on these different metrics in the GOAT Group series here. Short but sweet, I guess, could identify Otto Graham's career here. So what's interesting is his total seasons, just 10, okay? Again, this is not total qualifying seasons, although each of his 10 seasons did qualify, but total seasons active and listed as active at the start of the season, okay? 10 is the fewest among the GOAT group. That's 16th among these 16 quarterbacks. His total start percentage, on the other hand, 96%. That is number 1. So during his 10 seasons, he barely ever missed a game. Okay, 96% of the total games available, he started. So there you have that. The rest of these is start percentage after age 35, 0. He did not play past the age of 35. That makes him 16th among these 16 quarterbacks in the GOAT group. Since he didn't play after age 35, his percentage of wins after age 35, also 0, because he was not playing. 16th among the GOAT group. Now, these last two categories, start percentage after age 40 and percentage of wins after age 40, he has 0 for both of those categories. 0% because he didn't play, 0% because he wasn't playing. The ranking is a little odd to hear, but it's tied for 5th. Okay, that's because out of the 16 quarterbacks in the GOAT group, only 4 of them had any starts in the league after age 40. Okay, so keep that in mind as you hear some of tied for 5th. That doesn't mean he ranked high in these particular categories. It's because there are 11 guys that all had the exact same figure, 0%. Okay. Otto Graham just flat out didn't play as long as most of the quarterbacks in this group here, all of them, I should say. When he was playing, he started all the time, model of durability. But this metric measures longevity and durability, not just durability. So he ranks 16th in the GOAT group when it comes to longevity and durability. But as I mentioned here, short but sweet. He did okay for the 10 seasons he did play. Now on to number 15 within longevity and durability in the GOAT group. We've got Terry Bradshaw. So Bradshaw played 14 total seasons. Okay, again, these are the number of seasons that he was active at the start of the season. Okay, 14 total seasons. That ranks 13th within the GOAT group. His total start percentage was 76%. Kind of mid-pack, okay? That's 10th within the GOAT group. Now, his start percentage after age 35 was 0.5%. That's 0.5%. That's 15th in the GOAT group. Just above Otto Graham, basically, in terms of ranking. But yeah, he didn't play that long in terms of his age, I guess you should say. Percentage of wins after age 35, 0.9%. That's also 15th. Okay, and then the last two categories, Bradshaw did not play, into his 40s, so his start percentage and his percentage of wins after age 40 were both 0%, and that's tied for 5th. Tied for 5th, meaning, again, not that he's ranking super high, just meaning that 11 of these guys all played their entire careers before turning the age of 40, so none of them made it past 40, meaning they all tied for 0%, meaning they're all tied for 5th. Okay, so that's Terry Bradshaw. Again, playing 14 seasons compared to the average NFL player or the average quarterback is spectacular. We're just looking at this in comparison to the other 15 quarterbacks in the GOAT group. So when you're splitting hairs and kind of comparing it that way, he ranks out 15th here. On to number 14 in longevity and durability, we've got Joe Montana. So Montana has some interesting figures here. Total seasons that he was active and available at the start of the season, 15. Okay, now that's tied for 11th within the GOAT group. Now his total start percentage, however, is just 66.1%. Again, that's the total number of starts that he had in his career divided by the total number of regular seasons available from the time he entered the league until his retirement. So that makes sense with the injuries that Montana had. It's going to be on the lower side, okay? So total start percentage was 66.1%. That ranks him 14th among the GOAT group quarterbacks. His start percentage after age 35 was just 10.1%. Okay, again, that's the number of starts a player has after age 35 divided by the total number of regular season games available to them during their career. So 14th in start percentage after age 35. Percentage of wins after age 35 was 14.5%. Okay, and so that's 13th in the GOAT group. And then, like most of these guys, start percentage after age 40 and percentage of wins after age 40 are both 0%, tied for 5th in the GOAT group. Joe Montana coming in at number 14 in longevity and durability. And the final quarterback that we're looking at on today's episode is Bart Starr. Number 13 in longevity and durability among the GOAT group, Bart Starr, had 16 total seasons. That's tied for 8th among the GOAT group. Now, his total start percentage was 73.4%. That's 12th in the GOAT group. And again, that's the total number of starts a player has in their career divided by the total number of regular season games available to them during their career. Start percentage after age 35 for Bart Starr was 11.7%. And that's number 13 in the GOAT group, ranking out there. His percentage of wins after age 35 was 10.6%. So out of all the wins that Bart Starr had in his career, 10.6% of them came after age 35. That's 14th in the GOAT group. And once again, start percentage after age 40 and percentage of wins after age 40, both 0, both ranking as tied for 5th in the GOAT group. Bart Starr coming in at number 13 in longevity and durability. So there's the first 4 quarterbacks in longevity and durability. How do you like that for a Rushmore there? We go Graham, Bradshaw, Montana, Starr. Not a bad group there at all. Again, with these quarterbacks being compared to one another rather than the average NFL player or the average NFL quarterback, somebody's got to be at the bottom of all these lists. It doesn't mean that they're anything less than. It's just this is what happens when you've got to stack rank folks and you've got to kind of do these comparisons. Shorter careers can be attributed to a lot of different things. You'll notice each of these quarterbacks played, majority of their careers prior to 1990. Obviously, Montana a little bit in the early 90s, but guy like Graham or Starr or even Bradshaw to a degree. I mean, there were a lot more hits on the quarterback during those days. It's not like it is today. It's not that it's a different game, but it's not the same game, if you know what I'm saying. So there are some key differences that can certainly contribute to these factors. But, bottom line is, hey, when you're as good as any of these 16 quarterbacks are, any of them, okay, you can just pick a name out of a hat. When you're that good, making yourself available to play on a consistent basis for a long period of time has an exceptionally high value to any team. So that's why we're measuring this statistic. It is a metric and a category that needs its own look. Okay. Yes, it comes into play for just about every single counting stat there is. When you play a long time and you play on a frequent basis, and I mean, starting the majority of the time, you're going to rack up any counting stat, even if it's a bad one. Interceptions, we all know Brett Favre, all-time leader in interceptions. Well, he wouldn't have that stat if he didn't play for 20 seasons. So there are counting stats that pile up, but they're due to, obviously all of these guys are good. It's that particular it factor that makes somebody last a long time and be durable. There's a quarterback that is a flash in a pan every few seasons. I don't want to call out names because, a lot of these guys, they get injured, and hey, the injury bug is real. They get injured and they find their way out of the league quickly. That's real. But it's not just 100% luck for a quarterback or any player for that matter to last for 10 seasons, 15 seasons, 20 seasons. That's not just luck. Yes, there are some factors of, hey, this guy's just flat out got some type of genes or God-given ability to just play longer. Something is smiling down on him. But a lot of it has to do with how they approach their offseason, how they approach their week leading up to the games. That's why this is, its own metric that I'm looking at. That's the respect I have for a player like Tom Brady. Again, we all know where this is headed. Longevity and durability is going to end in one place, and that's with number 12. So Brady is at the top of this list. Now, where the other quarterbacks within the GOAT group stack up is interesting, and I want to discuss that in detail throughout the coming weeks. But this is like an homage to Tom Brady here, okay? Because as I break this down, and I'll go into it in even more detail when we get to that episode, it's like a whole nother level. It's like literally off the charts. How he stacks up against these other 15 all-time greats. All of these guys are all-time greats, and Tom Brady blows them out of the water in this particular metric. It's not even close. So I probably sound like a broken record here, but it truly is amazing. And so he deserves credit for that. in the proper context. That's all. I haven't addressed counting stats up front and center or given them a whole lot of credit, and maybe I should, maybe I will, maybe I'll make that change here, but most of what I've been discussing is per season, per game, per attempt, per play. I've been, slicing and dicing every possible statistic and measurement of these players down to the most minute aspects and smallest slivers of time. It's about time that we take a step way back and look at this big picture, because Tom Brady's picture, it's this work of art over 2+ decades. Okay, so we are going to give him his proper due here, and it's going to go a long way towards his skyrocketing up the leaderboard of the total GOAT Group board, which is coming soon. We'll go over where these quarterbacks stack up when you factor in all of the metrics that we've measured. But so far, not a bad list, even though there's 16 through 13. You've got Graham, Bradshaw, Montana, and Starr. Not too bad. But those are the first 4. Next episode, I'll dive into the next few quarterbacks within the GOAT group, and we'll see how they stack up before we finally get to the top of the list, and we'll dive in even deeper there, so we can really kind of, again, pay the proper respect and give it the proper amount of time on an episode to really dive into how Brady has operated this long for so long at this high a level. But that'll be for further episodes to come here. For now, we're just at number 16 through 13, and we'll get to the rest soon. Thanks again for joining Pro Football Perspective. On our next episode, we'll be continuing our examination of the longevity and durability of the GOAT Group quarterbacks. Pro Football Perspective is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, and be sure to follow along on Instagram at Pro Football Perspective. I'm Nathaniel Bradley. Deuces.